Hey, and welcome to Board with Life News for May 20th. Today I'm going to talk about the Spiel des Jahres nominees, as well as the Kennerspiel des Jahres nominees. Let's get to it. Hey, I'm Chris. Welcome to Board with Life News. As far as Board with Life News goes, we started our second season of our Board with Life Radio Dungeons & Dragons podcast, where cast and crew of Board with Life plays through Dungeons & Dragons. We're having a ton of fun with that. If you didn't listen to the last campaign, Lost Minds of Phandelver, you don't need to know anything about this one. We started totally new for the second season, so you can just jump right in at episode 1. So yeah, definitely do that if that sounds at all interesting to you. We have a lot of fun doing it. We also started a sister podcast called Houses and Humans. This is going to be all sorts of kind of geek personalities from the board game world, from video games, from anime, just kind of whoever we can get that is generally nerdy and down to play role-playing games. These are going to focus more on indie RPGs, so not things like Dungeons & Dragons, more things like Apocalypse World or Burning Wheel, things like that. It's going to have a bunch of different ones, a lot of times in one shot or 2 or 3 episodes, so it'll be way more digestible. It's not going to be this long, huge campaign, even though we will have an ongoing campaign of Apocalypse World in it. The one that we just started, the Apocalypse World campaign, has Anthony Birch, who was the writer of Borderlands 2, worked at Gearbox Software from the very popular web series Hey Ash, What You Playin'? We have Paul Dean of Shut Up and Sit Down fame. We have Sean McCoy, who is one of the designers and of Two Rooms and a Boom, and owns that publishing company, as well as myself playing, and Donald is GMing it. So definitely tune into that if that sounds interesting to you. It just started, so you're not behind, don't worry. We are going to do away with our regular schedule for Bits and Let's Plays that was every other Tuesday until we can finish Board with Life Season 2. We took a brief break, obviously. We haven't done news in a little while because we're trying to get all that done. We're getting all that squared away. So until we finish that, those will come up randomly. So those won't be every other Tuesday anymore for at least the foreseeable future. I'll keep you updated whenever we have something cool going on with that. Okay, enough about Board with Life news. Now into board game news. The Spiel des Jahres nominations were released this week, and for those of you that don't know, Spiel des Jahres is the game of the year. It's a German award, and it is the biggest award given in board gaming. Winning the award often means that you can get hundreds of thousands of sales instead of just thousands of sales. Some notable winners are like Settlers of Catan, things of that nature, really big popular games. So it is a very big deal. They just released their nominations this week. First up, I'm going to talk about the honorable mentions, and keep in mind Spiel des Jahres is for, it's not necessarily a family game, but it needs to be simple enough to play with children. There's the Kennerspiel des Jahres, which is like the hobbyist, which is the more complicated games. I'm going to talk about those as well. But just keep that in mind when you hear these nominees and blah, blah, blah. The honorable mentions were Abracawhat, Cacao, Looney Quest, One Night Ultimate Werewolf, Patchwork, and Yugo, or Ugo, I don't know. It's all capital, UGO with an exclamation point. I don't know. But the actual nominees are as follows. First up was Colt Express. Colt Express is a game for 2 to 6 players. It's a highly thematic action programming game. Probably the most notable part of the game is it has basically a 3D board. It's themed around a train heist, and each of the train cars you can go inside or you can go on top of. So they're really cool cardstock, thick cardstock or chipboard trains that you go in and steal jewels and punch each other and shoot each other, things of that nature. This has been a pretty popular game. It's not a super big surprise that it's gotten this nomination, so yeah. Up next is Machi Koro, which actually came out in 2012 in Japan, but I guess has just now made it to Germany this past year. We actually did a Let's Play of it. If you're interested in watching that, you can click around wherever that's going to pop up. It's for 2 to 4 players, and it's often been described sort of like Catan Light. It's a card game with dice rolling where you purchase different properties, and the properties activate in different ways based on what people roll on dice. Again, this isn't a super surprise because it's Catan Light in a lot of people's eyes. And is pretty much in theme with often the type of game that gets nominated. It's pretty cool to see a Japanese game get nominated, though. And third is a game that, honestly, I had not heard of until the announcements came out, and it is called The Game, which is not a good name for a game if you want it to be searchable at all in any sort of respect. It's got a subtitle that's in German that I don't know, but Yeah, the theme of the game is not anything greater than the title either. It's just kind of, you have cards that have numbers on them, and that's the theme. The general goal of the game is it's a solo or co-op game that's sort of like Hanabi, where you can only give limited information to your teammates, and you're all trying to get the same goal. Your goal is to get rid of all your cards. You have 2 cards set out in front of you that have ones, and 2 cards set out in front of you that have hundreds that you're all collectively playing on, and then there are cards numbered 2 through 99, so 98 other cards. You can play starting at the 1 in ascending order, and play starting at the 100 in descending order, and you're just trying to get rid of your cards. If you play a card in the ascending order column, so starting at the 1, that is exactly 10 less than the previous, so say you've played 23 and you have 13, you can play the 13 and jump back down, and the opposite is true in the descending order column. It's a very simple game, and kind of a surprise, at least to me, obviously, I hadn't heard of it, for this nomination, but it does sound very simple and easy to learn, and it seems to have some of that Hanabi communication thing going on, where you can't say exactly what you have, and you have to communicate that in other ways. So it'll be interesting to see who comes away with it. Machi Koro's probably the front runner right now. I don't know, that's just a guess, but anybody could take it. Now on to the Kennerspiel Jahres nominations. First off, the honorable mentions. They have Deus, Fields of Arle, The Voyages of Marco Polo. So those are all, no surprises there. The first nomination is Broom Service, which is a game for 2 to 5 players. It's a little bit of a surprise because it's not exactly a reprint, but it's kind of a reimagining of a game that came out in 2008 called Witch's Brew. From what I've read, I haven't played it, either of them, but it's pretty significantly different, but it is based around another game. So that's a little bit of surprise that it got nominated. This is a simultaneous action selection game where you select actions simultaneously. You're going to pick 4 cards, but you then play them in turn order. So they're all selected, but you don't play them all at once. The main mechanic around this game is each card has a, what do they call it, a brave action and a cowardly action. And the brave action, you get a larger bonus for playing that card versus the cowardly action, but you have to choose which one you're doing. And if you choose the brave action and someone after you also has that card, you don't get anything. So there's a little bit of push your luck and a little bit of bluffing that goes along with it. The theme is your witches traveling around a board trying to create and deliver potions. It's got some great artwork, so yeah, interesting choice. Next up is Elysium. It's a game for 2 to 4 players. It's a drafting set collection game. This reminded me a lot of Seven Wonders, not in the mechanics, even though there is drafting, but it doesn't happen in the same way as Seven Wonders, but in the fact that it's basically a card game, but there's a whole lot of board elements to it, and lots of, money and chips and tokens. And the main thing, I think, is that I watched 3 different run-throughs of this game, and I still can't grasp it at all. And I was the same way with Seven Wonders, where it just didn't, grok for me at all until I had played it once. And after the first time I played it, it totally made sense. It actually wasn't complicated at all, but it just seemed like it was in a different language, which, while this one is in a different language right now, it just seemed totally crazy to me. But that's all I know about that game. Obviously, that's not very helpful, because I'm too dumb to understand it. Sorry. And the third nomination is Orleans. Orleans is probably my most anticipated upcoming game, because it hasn't gotten its American print yet. That's coming out from Tasty Minstrel Games. They did a Kickstarter for it. I backed it. I'm just so excited to get this game. It is a bag building game with worker placement elements, and a bag builder is like a deck builder like Dominion or any of those, but instead of cards, you're doing different tiles that are in a bag, and you're drawing those out. And those are your different workers, and you're assigning them to different spots in a sort of worker placement style, and those will give you various advantages as you build your engine throughout the game. This game's really exciting to me. I have watched all the run-throughs of it, and it's the kind of game that I already know before I've played it that I'm absolutely going to love. So I wouldn't be surprised if this one took it. It was a really big hit at Essen last year, so that one's probably the front runner, but that also might just be my personal bias. All right, that's the news for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be doing this every Wednesday for the foreseeable future, so don't worry, I'm back. We finished our brief break. Please make sure you subscribe to our channel and like us on Facebook and Twitter. We really appreciate when you do that. And go check out the podcast if you haven't already. Even if you don't like Dungeons & Dragons or role-playing games, a lot of people are giving us the feedback that they didn't, and it actually made them interested in the game. If you like what we do, if you like our Let's Plays and things like that, it's a very relaxed thing, kind of like that. It's very funny, at least in my obviously highly biased opinion. But definitely go check that kind of stuff out. The question for this week comes from @Mebesqui via Twitter. Mebesqui, maybe get a better Twitter handle because I have no idea what that is. Or keep the one you have, because don't listen to me. I'm just a dude. Why would I tell you to get a new Twitter handle? That's what you want, man. It's probably the name bestowed upon you from your dying grandfather. I really hope your grandfather hasn't died recently. Sorry, Mebesqui. Whatever. Anyways, they ask, what 3 games would you have picked for the Spiel des Jahres? This is a little bit tough because I don't know exactly what games came out in Germany in the window. Sometimes, a game could have come out 2 years ago in America, or a game's not out in America yet, that kind of thing. And I'm also pretty murky on what level a game can be like to win the Spiel des Jahres versus the Kennerspiel des Jahres, like Roll for the Galaxy. Is that too complicated or what? I don't know. Anyways, but I did my best. So taking all that into account, my picks were Patchwork, which was one of the runner-ups. I think it's a great game, super simple, very easy to learn, very compelling game by Uwe Rosenberg. I'm kind of shocked it didn't get actually nominated, and I think it's probably because it's only 2-player. That probably is what kept it out. Second up is One Night Ultimate Werewolf, which is a fantastic party game. I really, really like this. It took a lot of the things about Werewolf that I loved and distilled them into a very short game without player elimination. Yeah, so I'm pretty high on that game. And then Sushi Go. I think that probably came out in Germany this past year. I really love Sushi Go. It's my favorite game to introduce new people to board games. It's small. You can carry it in your pocket if you have big pockets. It's very simple. I really like Phil Walker Harding, how he can distill game mechanics down to kind of their simplest form in a lot of his designs, but they're still compelling and a ton of fun. So yeah, those are my 3 picks for what I would have nominated for this video, guys. All right, thanks for tuning in this week, and I'll see you next week.